Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook Podcast, out of NRL Supercoach Round 14, proudly brought to you by Mortgage Choice SCW. I'm your host, Tim Williams, and there's a bit going on at the moment. We have a full round of NRL action on the cards again. We get Origin teams at the back end of the weekend. We have a long weekend coming in as well. Life is good, but it's not so good for one bloke, and it's the former 91st placed finisher, the SC Spy. And Spy, I'll tell the people why. You've just had your Oztag called off for about the 350th week straight, mate, and you're not happy.
I'm rattled. I'm actually quite angry. I was fired up tonight, ready for a big performance. I actually genuinely need some fitness. So anyway, we roll on. But on a positive note, Big Papa's record-breaking clash this week. So I've pulled out the Green Machine training jersey. It's a big moment for Big Papa. And quick story while we're at it. The day my first kid was born, young Charlie. I don't know if I've ever told this on the podcast, but my wife went into labour the morning of the Raiders South prelim final 2019. Sam was not playing but in the squad, like the 21 or whatever it was. So it was a pretty big moment. We're pretty invested. And I was like, oh, we'll be right. It's for like 13 hours or something. And in short, it was all going to plan. It was a whirlwind pregnancy. And all of a sudden it just stopped. Like 2 o'clock. And I'm like, all right, all good, plenty of time. Kept watching the clock. Anyway, the game started. Nothing had happened still. I'm like, oh, it's just a disaster. I was like, oh, actually, wait, no, this is good. I'm having a child. So I went home after. All went well. Great result. I think Charlie wasn't born till 11. And everyone like mum blew up. She's like, I was waiting on the text. Why didn't you tell me? Like, well, I hadn't turned my phone off. The footy was on. So I went home and watched the prelim final after having my first kid, and Big Papa Leahy straight through the middle to get us in Raiders by us, Sam, and the boys in the grand final. So it was a hell of a night. And yeah, a bit of respect for Big Papa.
The greatest day in the life of the Spy, that one. Absolutely everything came together.
A bit going on there.
Yeah. One of the greats. So one of the nicest blokes in the NRL. Like, everyone always says nicest bloke in the game, Jake Trbojevic, Tom Trbojevic, but big Josh Papali'i, he's right up there. One of the great men. Also with us on today's show, Desi Creek, the 2019 Supercoach champion, fresh in a sport and a fresh cut.
I am, yep. There
Looking
it is.
good,
for the
mate.
viewers.
Talk to us.
Love it.
Yep. I said in the playbook WhatsApp, if Latrell didn't score a double in State of Origin, I would shave my head. And here it is. Nice and cold.
Man of his word.
That's it.
Man of his
Always.
word.
That's it. But yeah, other than that, going up the rankings in Supercoach, up to about 2,400th overall now, after 13-17, I think it was this week. Yeah, a few good trade-ins, captaining Terrell May every week, just safe and sound, consistent Supercoach, sand green arrows.
Yeah, I say it often, Desi. I very rarely agree with your methods, but I never doubt you or the results of them. So
Thank
you
you,
are
Tim.
absolutely on a fly at the moment, and it's good to see. And yeah, playing some slightly conservative Supercoach, which is a bit different for you as well, but it's paying off.
It is, yep, it is. I don't know if bringing in like Lehigh Hopewade counts as a conservative Supercoach. I think it was the play.
Conservative for you, maybe.
Captaining Terrell May
nothing
every
too
week.
rogue.
Yeah, captaining
That's
Terrell May.
conservative.
I really wanted to do it on Drinkwater, and I thought I'd made a big mistake at about, half time. But yeah, in the second half, he just went missing, didn't he? And the Tigers really came back in that final 20 minutes. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can go wrong with Terrell right now. He's averaging 90. He's going to get you about 80 every week. That seems to be his floor. So yeah, I don't even see why you'd captain anyone else right now. I can see why you put the VC on Pappenhausen, Drinkwater, Teddy. I mean, Teddy's still looking very good. But yeah, he's target number one for me.
I think we all captain Terrell May on the weekend. Spy, you're also flying at the moment.
Yeah, pretty consistent at the moment, and me and Desi look like we're locked in for a battle down the year. It should be good into 1600th. Yeah, just poking along at the moment, but pretty happy with things. I had a quick look before, as I often do before the show. I think I'm 350 points outside of like the top 200, so there's not much between us. It's got to keep going up.
Good sign, Spy. Also with us on today's show, Matty, the Waterboy, who's absolutely brimming the Bunnies with Jack Whiten back. They've got half their team back, mate, this week. Cody Walker.
We got our left side back. So, Spy, I'm glad you had a good night in 2019 prelim because I had an absolute... It was
I was
horrendous.
hoping you were working while I said that. but
No,
having
it was
to go.
horrendous. It was so horrendous because not only did South get knocked out for the second year in a row, I then went to Mooseheads after. I thought, I just need to get away from this. And they played the Canberra Raiders theme song on repeat. Which, to be fair, was fine because it's such a good song.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Tough one.
Just did a little bit of research because I noticed number 296 on your jersey, Spy. I assume that's the number of Sam.
That's Sambo. What is Josh? Because I reckon that's what you were talking
300.
300. It wasn't quite the same game, was it? But it wasn't far off.
Well, fun fact, I just had a look at Sam's teammates, and he played with Josh Papali more than anyone in the NRL.
Oh,
So there you go.
Great stat.
91 games. Second was Jared Croker, which would have been my
they
guess.
came
but-
all through 20s and SG ball together as well when Big Pup came down from Queensland. So even lived together.
Well, there you go. It's funny. Like, number one is they've played 91 games together. Number two was Croker with 88. And then number three is Sean Fempson with 60. So it's, length of the straight stuff.
There you go.
But yeah, glad you had a good night that night, Spy. I had an absolute horrendous one.
Thanks, mate. I feel for you on that one.
Matty, Supercoach side, how'd you go on the weekend?
Pretty reasonable. I went up 400 spots. So very, very lackluster. But it's much better than the 6,000 spots I dropped a few weeks ago. So unfortunately, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. I slipped outside the top 10,000, so I'm 12,000 now, but I've been around there for a while and for a couple of weeks, and it was a reasonable week. But the Red Arrows a few weeks ago was tough. It was a tough on the ego, that one.
Matty, you're learning a lot about Supercoach in recent years, and one thing to note is never begrudge or look down on Green Arrows, no matter how
True.
small, because as long as they're not red, like the Cooma Stallions, life is not that bad. We're in free fall. 1,202 points, dropped 900 spots to 3,600th overall. Dropped 1,000 spots basically 3 weeks on the trot after peaking at 700 a few weeks back. Little story for you to hopefully put a smile on your dial of a Tuesday evening. I put out an SC Playbook subscriber podcast around halfback roulette. Spy coined fullback roulette, a bit of halfback roulette. And I ended up bringing in Jerome Hughes on relatively late notice, and it sounds a little bit ridiculous, Nico, to Jerome, but long story short, all it was going to do was cost me one trade in the long run because I was trading Nathan Cleary anyway. Video's on the website if you haven't watched it. Brought in Jerome Hughes. 32 points. Was my flex. Dropped out of my team. So fantastic move. Had a little bit of a look back this morning at his numbers in recent years. It was his worst score since 2020, barring one game. So there was an injury-impacted game earlier this year, but outside of that one injury-impacted game, he had one game since 2020 that was worse. It was round 9, 2024, also against the Titans on the Gold Coast. So there you go.
Bogey team.
For future reference, if you want to get Jerome Hughes in on the Gold Coast, don't do it because it's his bogey team and location. Anyway.
That's true. I remember the game. I think I watched with Clementine that game last year, and she brought him in here for his whatever score was. So he does that to people.
Yeah,
And-
once a year.
And I watched it with both of you both times. So there you go. Maybe I'm the curse.
Big job to do for Jerome Hughes against the Cowboys this week for the Stallions. Alrighty, on today's show, Team List Tuesday, Supercoach pointers, no Tommy Turbo. Lockie Galvin named on the extended bench for the Bulldogs. King Kiraz returns for the Doggies. Topic for the show, we're going to be talking team structure, having a look at when to change that focus purely on buy coverage, where I think the majority of Supercoaches are relatively well set up for at the moment, to just focusing on getting your best 18. And we'll get to it later, but there's been so much cash generation. Teams looking pretty deep already, so we can potentially start doing that a little bit earlier than other seasons. Spy Talk, things you may have missed. God knows what that's got for us this week. Top 5 something or other. Hot topics for the week. Is it worth moving the mad dog Cam Munster onto the flying Jaden Campbell? We'll drop our round 14 trade and skipper plans into a few listener questions at the end, looking at Damien Cook. Is he the play at hooker moving forward? Guys, the SC Playbook community catch up. The community of us all and our members of the SC Playbook contributor team. We're heading to the Roosters and Tigers game at Allianz Stadium at Moore Park on Sunday, July 6th. Allianz Stadium, they've hooked us up with exclusive space in the American Express Garden, the stadium's premier beer garden. A month until that game is on, and there's 50% off tickets for the SC Playbook subscribers. That link to the discount is in our WhatsApp community. If you're a subscriber but not in that group and want to come along, flick us an email at supercoachplaybook@gmail.com, /Supercoach, and I'll flick you the link there. Our regular community also getting 10% off tickets. I sent a link out to that on our social media channels, so check that, Twitter, Facebook, etc. But also you can just email us if you want that link. They're selling fast. The response has been unreal. Come along, let us fill that beer garden up and spend the arvo chatting Supercoach. Cricketers Playbook podcast, guys. I know it's winter. You might be thinking, what cricket's going on? The World Test Championship final is on next week against South Africa. The big one for the Mace. The Cricketers Playbook podcast, myself, Maxi Bryden, Random Stats Guy. That's on YouTube and on our podcast channels, previewing that final and looking at the IPL final as well. Ricky Ponting coaching in that one. Virat Kohli as well, so a bit happening there. Now, Unlimited leader, Jet Speed, coached by Nathan, retained his lead, but he's dropped to second overall. We've currently got the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th ranked coaches, but we want that top spot back. Rowdy Bulldog, coached by David, he topped the week with 1,447 points. So, yeah, let's get into it. Team list Tuesday and the big news coming out of the teams today. Spy, Royce Hunt's been dropped.
One of the greats. I've never been so pumped for someone I'm never going to play to be dropped out of a side, which just didn't matter. But it does, because he's the nightmare if he comes into your side. I know it's different this year with, your lowest score dropping out, but that just means, I haven't done the numbers on it, but I know it's beneficial. That's for sure. Don't have to worry about it.
When Royce Hunt starts a game and scores 9 points and you don't have to look at looping and a 9-point coming anywhere near your squad, that is a good thing. So, yeah, I'm a bit like you, Spy. He was the only real AE headache in my team each and every week. So more than happy to see Royce the Choice drop out of the Tigers and named in New South Wales Cup. So
yeah, which is huge. I'm actually looping Pappy this week after his 120, so it'll be good to just watch that play out.
Be easy, won't it?
Yep.
Kalen Ponga named to return from a rest last week post-Origin for the Knights. Greg Marju on the extended bench. A watch on a few cheapy outside backs there if Marju does come into the team. No Tommy Turbo, again for the Manly Warringah Seagulls. Lehigh Hopewade thus gets another week at fullback. Either of you got Tommy Turbo?
No.
Thankfully, no. I did look at it a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but it could not have worked out worse for owners.
Matty the Waterboy, you got Tommy Turbo, didn't you?
I did.
How you feeling, mate?
Yeah, just I'm angry at myself because, obviously he got injured. Yeah, whatever. It is what it is.
I don't
But-
give a shit, whatever.
In saying that,
I do care. I care a
and
lot.
will we get to Tommy this week, I assume?
Not really.
In the chat?
He's
Well,
not
it's-
playing.
Well, just worth saying, a lot of people are going to get frustrated and want to drop him.
I'm not dropping him.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
probably cover him this week by playing someone decent anyway, and I'm still worried about next weekend. If he's had a few weekends off against the Titans, not owning could be pretty scary, so don't panic just yet if you own.
100%,
I just saw a
like-
lot of stuff around, he's got to go. I'm like, well, it
The
definitely doesn't.
serious silver lining is that Tommy Turbo doesn't come back. In a week where Sit V starts are tough enough as they are, squads are deep, we've got heaps of playing options with the full round. I know there's a lot of good players that will be sitting outside people's 18 this week. You don't, of course you want Tommy, but at least he doesn't come back, get injured. You want him next week.
Absolutely.
When they're half the comp are on the buys and Origin players are out. So that's the silver lining. Jake Trbojevic is back at lock. Jazz Tavanga, who's been fantastic for him, he goes to the bench. I don't love that, but I'm not the Manly coach, so it does not matter. Harry Grant and Xavier Coates return from arrest for the Storm. Big one, boys, at the Cowboys. I think many were expecting to see Murray Taulagi named on the wing for the Cowboys to press his case for Origin. And Desi, I was expecting him with a game under his belt, if he looked good, to get picked for the Maroons. That could have spelled curtains for this week's most traded out player, Rob Toya, who was at 609k, averaging 59 and an 86 break even. But now that Taulagi's not back, you'd imagine he's not going to get picked for the Maroons on no games. I mean, it makes Toya a sell, I think, and it's just a little headache that probably Toya owners didn't want to have.
Yeah, it looks like a good week to hold trades on the surface for me. But yeah, Toya is the main one that I would be looking to trade out of anyone in my team. I can see why he's the most traded out, but there's no rush on it because he's not going to move up or down in price this week. So, yeah, I'm going to probably hold off on it. If I did want to make the trade, it would be down to a cheapie who we're going to talk about soon, who plays for the Dragons. But Yeah, there's no rush, I don't think.
There's no rush because price won't change. Spy, he will miss, obviously, this week on the Roosters bye, and then one would assume after what was a pretty solid and one of the better players, I would say, for the Maroons in game one, he'll miss round 14, 15. Roosters are on the bye round 17, so he misses that. Every chance that he plays Origin 3. Like, there's a chance Taylor comes home and drops out, but let's say round 18. What are your thoughts with him? Because there's no rush in terms of dropping price, but he does look like a prime sell candidate for me off the back of this Taulagi news.
Yeah, happy to sell him. I think even in the buy period, if you're wanting to own him, he's not necessarily going to score that well. He's not like one of them blokes where you go, he's going to score his 60, 70 at least with upside. He could come get you 35, 40 anyway. So
He's done that for the best part of the season, and I think he's averaging, I guess numbers up at mid-50s or so, but like his game on the weekend where I know a lot of people had to play him against the Raiders, he scored that try with about a minute or two to go, and it was like a 33-point play or something. Like it was quite a large one.
Something I've noticed.
So he's averaging 59, but you take that 148 out of it, there hasn't been a lot.
It's a 50-odd you're getting sort of week to week, which can be less. Something I've noticed about him, it'd be interesting to see how it happens moving forward, but coming out of his own end, he's a big right foot stepper. I don't know if you've chatted out on bloke at all, but he's basically stepping away from the markers into the slide defence. Where if he was on the left-hand side, he'd bust more tackles and run more metres. So he gets no points coming out of trouble. If he did, it's just something, because I played him on the weekend, so you watch those little things a bit closer. I'm like, he's just going to get belted every time. He steps straight into the traffic with the markers coming across. So but then you see when he gets early ball and he can go against the grain, he's a phenomenon. So, yeah, to cut a long story short, he's a sell. But not necessarily this week. You can do it next week.
Good insight, Spy. I like it. But yes, I think he's probably on the chopping block for the Cooma Stallions. At the Dolphins, Maxi Plath and Jeremy Marshall-King named on the extended bench there at the Dragons. Tyrell Sloan dropped. Christian Tui-Pelotu returns on the wing. Good news for cheapie Nathan Lawson, who's a popular buy this week. We'll get to him a little bit later in the show in Hot Topics. Ronaldo Mulitalo, he's out due to suspension. Shani Katoa returns from injury on the wing as a straight swap. Teague Wilton also back on the edge for the Sharkies. Adam Fanua-Blake, he was pitching in a sling after their last game a couple of weeks back. He's been named, and apparently that was very much a precaution. So looks good to go, AFB. Mitchie Barnett, sadly, out for the season. That sees Jackson Ford start alongside James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. At the Brisbane Broncos, Reece Walsh returns at fullback. That pushes Jesse Arthurs to the wing, and Dean Mariner has been dropped. Paddy Carrigan has moved to lock. At the Raiders, Tommy Starling returns from suspension as a starter at number 9. At the Bunnies, as mentioned earlier, Jackie White and Cody Walker return. There's some huge ins for that clash. Spy, your Tigers. The big one, Latu Fainu, named on the bench. This will have an impact potentially on Api Coruscant and who have we? Mason Heath.
Heath Mason.
And Heath Mason, Heath Mason's the 5th most trade in play this week at 276k with a 65 point per game average and negative 39 break even. The way I see it, once he gets a few games under his belt, possibly one, Latu starts, right?
I think that's the plan. Heath is a very good player. He obviously showed on the weekend, but look, it wasn't a game renowned for defence on Saturday night, so let's see how it goes this weekend, but every chance he does drop out or back to the utility role, Heath Mason, in coming weeks, so just be wary of that. But yeah, interesting watch moving forward for the Tigers.
I think it's a trap. With Galvin gone, I think Latu, once he gets even one game under his belt, potentially even this week, I think he starts. Heath Mason, really good. Obviously can play 5'8" or fullback, but I don't think he's in their full-strength team. And
he might even play 50 minutes this week. We don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't really know why you do it unless you're banking on hoping for 2 games. Oh, they don't play next week either. They got the bye, yeah.
So he'll be gone by round 18 when they do play.
You can't even hope he gets next week. Yeah. So, don't do it.
There's a bit of quick cash, but meh. Moving on. Next up, where are we up to? We're up to the Doggies. Jacob Kiraz returns a week before the Doggies cover round 15 and 18. Des, you know you're a big fan. I think most super coaches are. Returning early from injury, at least on what was being reported, that's huge.
Yeah. if you've got the funds, I can see why you just pull the trigger and get him straight back in. Normally, a player coming back from an injury early, you kind of want to take a sider out, especially because I think he's about 800k. Probably a pretty high break even as well, I'd say. because I think he got 60 his last game. So yeah, it's probably one you want to wait on. But yeah, if he's looking good, he's just straight back in. I don't mind paying any price for him. I'll pay anything for Kiraz.
125 break even at 798k. So yeah, as you said, Desi, with that break even, granted, he's capable of hitting it, especially against Parramatta on Monday. But you wait, you have a look, but Spy, like Bunny's next week without Latrell Mitchell, potentially a few others there as well. Buy in round 16, but oh geez, he comes right on the radar, doesn't he?
Yeah, the only thing that would happen also, I immediately looked to trade him in as soon as he was named. I was 10k short, so it's probably a blessing. Big break even, could do well this weekend. But let's say he goes okay this weekend, scores his 60. He may then play centres next week. So that impacts things a little bit in terms of try scoring. Could still score well, but just a different situation and role there. Then as the bye round 16, which we will get to at some point, is very hard. So it might not be as easier and obvious as a buy as I would think initially. And maybe it's for round 17. Just something to monitor there.
Speaking of monitoring at the Bulldogs, Lachlan Galvin named on the extended bench. We do not know where he'll be injected, when he'll be injected, if he plays this week at all. But it's a big watch because it could impact the likes of, potentially a Matt Burton. It, could impact Connor Tracy's 16 that he'll score on Monday. Lots of different things in with where Lachlan Galvin. I would assume he probably comes in just straight in the half with Matt Burton, and it's a simple enough swap. Toby Sexton drops out, but just watch this space on the impact on the Doggies. So beware if you're looking at getting any Doggies players this round. And at the Eels, Will Pensina, he returns from a head knock. As suspected, it sends Jordan Samrani to the bench, so it's going to limit his minutes. It could be very few. He has been coming on and playing the forwards a bit, so we'll see what happens there, but it's going to likely stunt any major cash growth for him. Boys, topic for the show, team structure. Basically, I'll give you a rundown and we'll get your thoughts. So there's been a lot of cash generated so far this season, and Maxi Bryden actually got me thinking about this one and putting it as a topic to open the show. But squad values are getting really strong. Numbers are pretty comfortable for the major buy-ins across the board. They might be sitting for around 15, 18 at 11, 12, 13, but thereabouts. I think we look like we're pretty well off. Sit v starts as soon as this week are becoming really tough because squads are already so strong. So obviously this is going to be a team-dependent discussion like it generally is, boys. But for overall players out there, it's a side effect of having a mature squad early on in the season due to cash growth. Also a side effect of having buy coverage sorted plenty, like a long way ahead of time. My question is, when do we just start to work towards our top 18, the best players, rather than a buy coverage player that might not be a keeper long term or like that cash generation focus? So an example might have been like someone like Ewan Aitken, who was a popular buy last week, and you could still make a case for him this week. You just buy a Zach Lomax or a Valentine Holmes and you get that gun in. Sure, they're going to miss some extra games with Origin and whatnot, but you've got depth and you have the best players, you're saving trades in the process. Another one might be like, I'm looking at holding Billy Smith for the next month or so because they cover some major buy rounds. But yeah, all right, if my cash is good and my team's getting there, I don't really want to play him. So do I just go for a gun and trade out Billy Smith if he's the option? So I'll start with you, Desi. I know you don't put a ton of planning into the Origin period itself. And once again, mate, it's working for you so far early on. But in terms of that transition from, potentially buy coverage players to out and out guns in that best 18, how do you feel?
I think you know my answer. Last week I had the decision to buy pretty much Aitken or Lomax. I chose Lomax. I just think that the ceiling's there. Aitken's probably going to get you 60, 70 most weeks. Lomax will too, but he's just got the ceiling. He can go 150. Or I think he got 170 off Origin last year. I was just way too scared of him to not own him. So I'm just going towards my best 18 as soon as possible. I'm probably pretty much already 14 or 15 there. I think there's only probably about 3 players that I'm missing, which is a frontline hooker, probably a Harry Grant, getting Payne Haas back in, swapping Gutho to Teddy, and probably going Dylan Brown to Jaden Campbell. Those are the 4 players I'm looking at. Other than that, and maybe Angus Crichton if he's looking good as well after Origin.
Yeah.
I'm just about there though. It's only probably 5 more trades that I have to swing, and I've got 19 trades left. So there's plenty of trades there with not that many players to get. So yeah, I'm definitely kind of just it's sit versus start that's becoming more brutal for me at this point. I've already got a pretty solid 18 players. Like just this week, for example, I'm thinking of sitting Tamale, who scored 98 last week against South Sydney, because my team is that strong, and Dylan Brown as well, who you would never think about sitting those two guys realistically, but yeah, it's becoming very tough.
And that's the thing, Desi. I mean, the first things first, having those decisions, people say, oh, it's brutal, I've got too many tough sit v start questions. Good problem to have, right? Like,
it is,
not at all. So you're basically saying you haven't really looked at your major buy-in numbers. You play this game differently to most, and it works for you, basically every year. You haven't looked at your numbers. I certainly haven't looked at your numbers for those major buy-ins. You might be short for them. You might not score as well. Maybe you take some hits in round 15 and round 18, and potentially even the minor buy-ins becomes a little bit tricky. But even if you do, which hasn't happened early on in the buy period for you, and I think you did quite well in it last year as well, coming out of Origin, you've probably held on to a few keepers that others might have sold. You've traded in guys like Zach Lomax, who people are going to want to get into the team straight after Origin. So it's a very different approach, but there's so much merit to it as well. And as long as you don't free fall in rank, and I buy plan more than you, and I've dropped in recent weeks, you don't buy plan and you've gone up. So there you go, that says plenty already. What about for yourself, Spy? What are you thinking?
It's a really interesting one. I am trying to attack this year a little differently. My first point is that I still think I want to have a quality 13 numbers for the major buy round starting from next week, sort of around that 13, 14 mark. Even if it's 13 good players and then just a sort of cheaper nuffy who might be able to potentially score you 50 or 60, but if he gets a 30, whatever.
The cheaper nuffies or the genuine bottom dollar ones who are about to make money and provide buy coverage, like one that'll come to mind this week is Nathan. His name's escaping me. The Dragons.
Lawson, but for example, I got Kyle McCarthy last weekend, so I did a downgrade. So hoping he holds a spot next week, then I can have 13 quality players and him. He's just a bit of insurance.
And that's like, to your point, that's kind of the exception rule where we'll generate a bit of cash, and there's an extra number there for those weeks, and it frees up cash. So
there's the free up cash factor, yeah. But in saying all of that, yes, I'm looking to bring in some guns sooner rather than later. I did really want Lomax last weekend. There wasn't really a way for me to do it that was obvious, so I didn't. I'll be looking hard at Eli Katoa this weekend. I was always going to get him round 16 after Nicker plays his major buy round, but I'm going to have a look at him for Corey Horsburgh, the perfect example. His next major buy that is going to be helpful for me is sort of around 16 and 18. Could make Origin. His minutes are down. So I'm like, do I want to hold this bloke just because he could be buy coverage? Nah, I'm going to get Ellie in. And then there'll be someone else I can grab in round 16 and 18 to offset that loss. So you've got to think about it a bit more that way, which I probably hadn't done as well in the previous 2 seasons, admittedly. Someone like Ewan Aitken, I think he's on a different scale for me. He plays all of the weeks in the next 5 or 6, and I'd call him a bit of a semi-gun. Like, he's not a gun, but he's around that 55 to 70 mark. Could be quite valuable and useful even in the big weeks where you can play everyone. So I think there's 2 tiers. You've got your semi-guns who play all the buys, and you go, well, they're already playing and they're pretty damn good, so there's no need to worry about them. But your mid-rangers, which Corey Horsburgh has slightly fallen into of late with that 40 to 55 points per game mark, he's sort of around that 52, 53 the last 5 weeks. Add in his Origin coverage that he might not be able to provide anymore, and I go, okay, now I can get to an Eli Katoa against the Cowboys, who I was fretting on. I'm just feeling Ellie. He's crashing over off Jerome Hughes this weekend. Short ball, 120 incoming. And I'm like, you beauty. So straight away, if Corey then gets a 55 this weekend or 60 and Ellie gets me 110, that's 50 points straight away I've already gained. So I'm sort of thinking about it a bit more like that. But like always, there's still a balance involved. It's not just a case of going, well, he's awesome, because hang on, he might be. But if Ewan Aitken then plays 5 of the next weeks and averages 65, you don't want to be giving that up too easily at all. So yeah, interesting. And my final point was, and it revolves around Corey Horsburgh again, but if you're moving a sort of a mid-range or someone who's not quite up to it at the moment for a gun, and he doesn't give you buy coverage till round 18 anyway, you'll be able to replace him another way in your side via another position. So I don't think you have to get too worried too far ahead, but that's sort of where I'm at, boys. I'm going to go Eli Katoa in for Horse, but there are situations where I wouldn't do that.
I sort of faded out when you mentioned Hughes to Eli Katoa and then Ryan Pappenhausen kicking the goal as vice captain. Like, I'll do some dark things for that to happen this weekend.
Do some weird stuff.
You don't want to know what I'll do if that happened this weekend. But yes, I sort of see it naturally tends to happen, Spy, pretty close to you, a long bloody way away from the way Desi's approaching it, as usual. But I see merit in both. I see what you're saying, Spy, but like having learnt from probably carrying those people that you mentioned that like might be semi-guns that have good coverage, I am trying from this point to get in people that I know will be keepers and guns, but not necessarily the Origin-related ones. So I think there are so many of these Origin players, and guys, do yourself a favour, go and look at your numbers in round 16, that second mini bye round. 3 teams are on the bye, but with Origin 2 on in Perth on the Wednesday, we've already been, Ivan Clear's already hinted at mass resting Penrith players for that one and not backing them up in New Zealand. I think lots of Origin players are going to get rested after that game. So I think it's going to be a very, very tricky round. So I think you could see a lot of these Origin players miss round 15, round 16, and round 18, and then there's naturally going to be some uncertainty over the round 19 backup as well. So I'm not necessarily keen on your Zach Lomax or Val Holmes types that you've mentioned, Desi, there, but I do want to avoid bringing blokes in that, even if they're semi-guns, that I'll probably be moving on at some point. So this brings into contention guys like Jacob Kiraz, who from next week we know he'll be a keeper, barring injuries, not Origin impacted. I own Eli Katoa, but Eli Katoa will be another one, Spy, where you bring him in, you know he's a keeper, there's no Origin impact. There's a few of these players that, Jaden Campbell's another one, you can bring him in, you know he's going to be a seasoned keeper for you, like more than likely. So yeah, no Origin impact, but seasoned keeper. So that's how I'm attacking it at the moment with my choice.
I should add with Aitken, I was sort of talking more than if you already own him, there's no need to sell him. But you're right, you don't necessarily have to target a Ewan Aitken now. You might look even higher. So that's the decision to make. I still think Ewan's a really good buy. He's that Sammy Gunn category who plays all the buys, which is a big bonus. But if you've got a Sammy Gunn who plays some of the buys, not all of them, that's when you go, do I really need him? Like, the beauty of Ewan is he plays all of them. But anything down from that, if you miss round 15, 16, 18, that's when you might reassess and only get the guys who are like your Eli Katoas. Because he doesn't play next week, but he could just damage me this week, so I just want him in.
And I look at my team, and it's, once again, it's probably something I'll, pending how the rest of the bye period unfolds, but that I'll take into and go, I brought in leading into the bye period a few of those players, and granted there's sort of cash generation forefront of mind for that as well, and players I think will rise 100 to 150k with some decent scores, but they've already underperformed a little bit. I'm like, all right, I'm more than likely not going to have them as keepers. Guys like a Britton Nickera or a Jesse Ramian, I'm like, I'm already going to probably have to flip those blokes on. So how many more of these do I want to bring in that I have to then make way for post-Origin period?
Great call, because Nicker will go for me after next week, or round 16. I think he'll cover for me, which could be handy. Then he can be moved on. So you're right. If you bring another one in, that's another trade. You've got to necessarily get rid of them, unless you're going to hold one or two of them, of course.
So
just the back end of your squad.
Keepers for me, but not Origin-related keepers. Obviously, it's a bit different, guys, if you're a head-to-head focused player as well. We've spoken about that, and that changes a few things. But, yeah, that's how we're all approaching the next sort of 4 to 5 weeks in the back end of the Origin period.
I want Lomax round 16, by the way.
There you go.
Yep.
So that's where you're
So
going
that's
against
different
me.
to you, but yes.
Yeah. All right. Spy talk. Things you may have missed. What do you got?
What do we got here? What's left, boys? Let's jump to the top here. All right. Spy talk. Sandon Smith, 29 of 31.
Spy just drum rolled himself.
Of his last goals. Well, you guys give me nothing, so I have to. Someone's got to lift this up. 29 of 31. Goal kicking. He's kicked. He's only missed 2 of his last 31.
Wow.
Which brings the question, I think Walsh might have spoken about it as well. Does he keep the kicking just for a little bit while Sammy Walker gets his legs? Fair bloody chance.
It's come back from an ACL.
Yeah.
So probably, yes.
Just because he was hitting him okay at the start of the year, but not fantastic. He's just found his rhythm. So that's obviously huge in a Roosters side. And with Sammy Walker playing, it's probably more points as well. So just one to monitor. When Sammy does come back, we can have a look at his role and his goal kicking and go from there. Are we talking much Scotty Drinkwater today, or have a little chat around him?
No, we can talk Scotty Drinkwater right now, Spy.
Scotty Drinks, I've just made a note, and this is also on the back of what Wilson said on his round recap, but just talking about the combinations changing with Jackson Purdue in the halves now, and he's a ball runner. So he mentioned that Purdue was running that sweep roll on the right a bit more, which is Drinky's bread and butter, and Drinky was a bit more restricted on the left. So just getting in different situations. So I wanted to note that and agree with it, but I also wanted to note that combinations, it's only 2 weeks into that, so that doesn't mean they can't go, boys, we're not hitting Drinky enough here. Let's sort that out, as well as getting your running game going. So it could go one of two ways. It will either stay as it has the last 2 weeks, which does hurt Drinky, or Drinky will find his combinations with Purdue and just get better and better. So we don't really know, which I guess brings the question on Drinkwater in with a break even, 180 or something. Your boys' thoughts around that? I have a very strong opinion on that, but
What do you reckon, Desi? What are you're a Drinky owner?
Yeah. I've seen people talking on the WhatsApp about trading out Drinkwater and Pappenhausen for that matter.
Happy.
Paps has a 3-round average against, who are they playing? The Cowboys.
Of like 4?
Of about 4 points.
I think he must have got hurt in all of them or something.
He's got hurt in all 3
no.
games. So people think that there's some sort of hoodoo going on there. Some sort of
They might be right, but don't sell him.
Yeah, so people are trading him out. People are trading out Drinkwater and Pappenhausen. But like, my question is to who? Who's going to outscore Drinkwater and Pappenhausen over this next month? Who are you realistically trading them to? Drinkwater, he's going to have games where he scores like 20 points. We've seen it, but they're not coming as often this season. He's getting 70 more often than not.
Those 20 games have been near non-existent the last season.
2 and
and a
5
half.
between, yeah.
He had the
I
14.
reckon that was an aberration last week.
He had the 14, and then he basically hasn't known it in a season and a half.
Yeah. I just wouldn't do it. I think he still looked good enough. When he scored that try, I was fuming that I didn't put the C on him. He just went straight through. He can do that if he just takes the ball. He takes the runs. But yeah, Purdue won't have the ball forever. He's probably getting a few more touches than they're just getting him used to the position by giving him more touches, I think, at the moment. So
it also gives him a little bit more gas in the tank if he wants to take him on.
Further to that round, the 2 major bye rounds, which are against the Dolphins without their Origin players, there's only a couple of them, but then the Storm without all their Origin players.
Yep.
The Cowboys, this could go one of 2 ways. Won't have their Origin players, so they could be shot to bits. But there'll be no Tom Dearden, so Drinky or Reece Robson. So Drinky will be doing everything.
I love Drinky non-Origin players.
Just touches.
Without him, yeah. Also worth noting, he plays every round, barring injury, until round 27. All of them.
I'm writing it out. If he
so-
drops 150k, then so be it.
I hadn't even considered selling him.
No, me
to be
either.
honest with you. I see that logic around Ari's touches down, but I mean, honestly, I've said it a few times this year. We'll find the money if we need to trade him at some point, and it's not like he's going to suddenly drop to 400k. So yep, all
That
good
14
there.
drops out of the, he's already dropped 100k on his peak price. The 14 will drop out of his rolling average after this week, and even if he knocks out a 60 or a 70, it all of a sudden doesn't look.
He's
any
sit
better
around
than
750, so it's fine. He's not going mad here. Glad you agree, boys. Aaron Clark, interesting 55 minutes on the weekend, and that included the Mitch Barnett bloody injury. Sad times there. I thought he was going to play huge minutes. It was a Sunday Arvo clash. I'm not sure how hot it was, but surprised me he didn't play 65 to 70. So as an Aaron Clark owner, just something to monitor there. And Barnett's obviously out for the season now. That suggests his role will increase and get back to that 63 to 70
Surely.
minutes. But just interesting that in the game he went off, in the first half, he only played 55 minutes. Slightly concerning as an owner. Nothing to panic on, but just one to monitor. What else we got here? Big Greggy Marju named on the extended bench, so it looks like he'll be back this week or next. That's big for Fletcher Sharp because all he does is follow Big Greg's offloads all day and cuts them to ribbons on the back of that. And good for Newcastle as a whole, just a bit of go forward and starting their sets further downfield. So there's been some Sharp talk. Someone asked me on Twitter, I think it was, is it time to maybe sell him and go on the attack because he's at 5'8"? I understand the logic. Knight's struggling, back at 5'8", maybe he knocks out a 35 again, but look, he plays the big buy next weekend. Let's get through that, then let's have a look at selling if it's something you want to attack, but he might just say, hell no, guys, hell no.
Honestly, even then, he's averaging 73. The Knights attack's been shit all season. Can only get better, surely.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be a bold strategy, but look,
Yeah.
just don't do it now is more
Yeah.
my point, but something to assess in a couple of weeks. Speaking of Newcastle, their defence points per game. There's only 2 sides in the comp that concede less than 20 points a game. It's them and the Dogs, and they're almost equal. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
No wonder they're tough
19
to
per
watch.
game or something.
They don't let tries in and they don't score them.
Does not make for good rugby league.
But what it does make is just when you're looking at the Newcastle games, as an opposition, sure, your team might win it or the side your players are in might win it, but they might not win it in a high-scoring manner. So Supercoach-wise, you need to still remember that Knights aren't easy beats in that sense. There's just
Don't look at them
low-scoring
as a
game.
super soft target.
Think low-scoring game. So that's an interesting one. Outside of that, my plans moving forward, boys, I was just going to suggest that I'm going to map out my best 21 players in the coming week just to see where it fits and how I'm going to get there. What do I need to do? I forgot to mention in team structure that I've got a decision to make around how I get Jaden Campbell in my side. I could upgrade Chanel Harris-Tavita to him right now, partner him with Munster. But two things happen there. One, I use 300k doing it. And B, I have 2 gun 5/8, so I'm going to struggle to play each week one of them because my bench is going to get strong on the back of Desi's points. So if you figure out your best side, you don't always have to go, oh, the cheaper guy I'm not using, let's go up and use all his cash. He can just sit there sometimes. You don't sit on the bench, play him if you really need to, because then you'll be able to spend your money more around your squad. And no top 5s this week. Very disappointing. I think we are...
Know what?
No top 5s. No top 5
None?
at all, yeah. Maybe hottest celebrities or something. Like we chat around the fire on the weekend.
Bloody hell.
Shakira. Anyway, it's for another day.
Another day, another podcast, hopefully. Alrighty, guys. Speaking of hot stuff, Mortgage Choice SCW, it has happened. We've had another rate cut, and it is time to get excited if you already haven't. This means a few different things for our listeners, and it could be the perfect time to refinance and save money on your loan. If you're looking to get into the housing market, it'll allow you to borrow more money to kickstart your property journey. Reach out to Paddy and his team at Mortgage Choice SCW and start asking a few questions to find out exactly what this means to you. Normally, that'd sting you $129, but mention SC Playbook when you reach out, and it's completely free of charge. To do so, flick the team a message on Instagram at mortgagechoice_SCW, or you can give them a buzz on 02 9521 1611. Doesn't matter where in Australia you are based. They might be based in Sutherland, Cronulla, Wollongong. You might be based in Darwin or in Perth or wherever. You can give them a call, and this all applies to you. You'll sort them out. All right, hot topics, boys. Most traded in and out players. I will start by saying that something that Desi mentioned earlier in the show. I think all things being equal, it's a good week to save trades if you can. Maybe use one, maybe you save both, but there are a few decent trade prospects to pick up on, but there's a lot of these guys in this list that I'm about to touch on have relatively high break-evens, so you can wait a week on them. We'll get Origin teams at the back end of the week. We can see how things play out. As you said, I think most teams are already sitting some really strong players from their 18, so you might bring in a gun at the expense, potentially of another gun from your 17 or 18. So I do think it's a really good week to try and save if you can. But the first, number one most traded in player, Keon Clomatani. We'll get to him shortly with my trades. Sadly, I had to get Dill Lucas last week, playing a bit of catch-up footy there. So I missed out on him by $5,000. Went really well.
Dylan
So
to you is clearly Garrick to me, isn't it? Like, just whichever way you do it, you can't win. If you don't get him...
I did start the year with Dylan Lucas, and he averaged about 80 for me, but then he got injured, so...
Yeah, but just like whichever way you do it, it doesn't...
not
you
too
know
bad.
it's going to go wrong.
You know what? He scored like 50 last week and underwhelmed big time. I was just like, just get through unscathed. Don't get hurt.
through.
Just get me to
I
round
got
15.
named today, we saw, of course.
Yeah,
Good.
so-
just quickly on Garrick. Shout out to Garrick for the highest score he's ever got me, 68. It was great to watch.
Likewise.
Up the Gaz.
Oh, Gaz, turning things for the boys. Let's go to number 2, Nathan Lawson, 198k with a 47-point average. Desi on the wing there for the Dragons, as we mentioned earlier. Terrell Sloan injured, but he's only played one game. The Dragons cover the next 2 major bye rounds. On the radar?
Definitely. You'd think that Sloan is a good enough player to win that spot back eventually.
Nah,
I don't know. He just hasn't been in the best of form, I guess. But
not
yeah,
fond of tackling at times.
not at all. So yeah, I think the Toya to Lawson trade is the one that like most people will be ripping, and it gets you 410k or something in the bank, which is just like a huge war chest to attack next week with 3 trades as well next week. So 400k can do a lot. I know I'm definitely thinking about it, but you can probably wait a week just to see, because like we said, Toya doesn't go up or down in price. Neither does Lawson. So if you do it next week, you're still gonna get that 410k.
3 trades to use next week.
That's it, yeah.
That's the big one. You get at least 3, 4 if you got a boost, and look, Origin sides are still to be announced. We have no idea what Queensland are going to do. They could be desperate. Well, they are desperate. Does Billy stick strong, or does he blow it up? We don't know. So we can wait and see. Toya doesn't have to go anywhere right now. Let's make sure Lawson plays next week, and you can do it then. And then you got 2 mega upgrades to deal with at that time.
I think you'd relatively safely sell Toya this week. I'm okay with that. But Lawson, I just think you wait a week. And, I mean, either wing that you end up on at the Dragons, it's going to be a good spot. They'll put you in good positions. But if he ends up on that left wing at 198k and covers those 2 rounds and frees up cash.
Can I link number 2 to number 3 directly?
Yeah, go for it.
Jaden Campbell. What if Jaden Campbell ends up on the Origin bench and you've brought in Nathan Lawson this weekend to fund Jaden Campbell? Bear with me for a moment. And then Lawson drops out next weekend and Campbell ends up at like 14 for Queensland, which is possible. And then you've got made 2 trades this weekend and they get you nothing. That's a really good example of why just cool your jets, I reckon, and just hold off because anything could happen. Queensland
Campbell at 14 is the first time that has crossed my mind.
It did to me today as well, but it could happen.
The only person I'd be selling Toya to is number 4 on the list, my boy Lehigh Hopewade.
Lehigh.
3-round average of about 100. He's just lighting it up right now. I really think that he's probably a keeper. Even on the wing, I think he's a keeper because he still makes those runs from out the back. He busts tackles in his own half. He can make line breaks in his own 20 in Manly's own 20. So that's definitely someone that you want moving forward. But he definitely looked very good at fullback. His ball playing was good. He looks better than Turbo to me. I'll say it. Turbo Irvo is going to be
on current fitness levels. That's fine to say. That's all good.
Yeah.
I was going to mention Lehigh. He's killing it. And he gets fullback this week against the Knights, but he's still fullback. He'll work his ass off. He then gets the Gold Coast either at fullback or on the left wing. Thanks for coming, major buy round. This is 16, so just 1 to monitor for your numbers there, which is why important to check. Then he gets Tigers. Then he has South and then another major buy week. So the only knock on that is he misses around 16 and 19, which can be tricky. But like you said, Des, if you get him in, you either get him on the left edge outside Turbo or he plays fullback every week. It's not bad, is it?
Where Turbo put him out for 2 tries and very nearly 3. It's he's absolutely ticks that box, Desi, of a player you're scared not to own.
I think he's a keeper. I think he'll be probably in the top 5, top 6, probably centre wing for the run home for me.
Yes. I mean, yeah, it's tough. At fullback, he definitely is. And then on the wing with Tommy there, he probably is as well. You're right. Manly capitulating could happen at any given week, as we know. That scares me. But he's got outstanding base, as we know, even playing on the wing. It's like 35 to 40 most of the time. So you look at him and he has a bit of a smaller body because he's young. He will be a bigger boy, but his base is there. The try scoring's there. So, yeah, look, I can't knock the buy on Lehigh Hopewade at all or Jaden Campbell. But I do think on Jaden Campbell, to your point, Spy, he's got that break-even of 80, playing between fullback and halfback, I should say, but available at 5'8". I do think that's one that can wait a week. And I think we might get to your trade shortly, Spy. And I think you were maybe looking at that Munster to Campbell you might have mentioned. But Munster's break-even's a tick higher. It's about 100. He plays the Cowboys. Jaden, I think you can wait a week on it. Put it that way. Boys, number 10, Loco Pacifica Tonga. Front row forward at 235k, 57-point average. 57 points on the weekend, a 37-point per game average with a break-even of 3. I'm a little surprised that people are going to him. I see what they're doing, freeing up cash, but the last 2 weeks he's played 22 minutes and 21 minutes. They've had a few injuries there. Jaden Sewell was one of them. So things have been swapped around. But Spy, it just reeks of another front row forward. Not saying he's a footballing plotter, he's a beast, but just a minimal minute plotter who just doesn't do much for you that you never play.
Yeah, I think there'll be other downgrade options in coming weeks we can use. We know he's got to try on him. We saw how powerful he was on the weekend, but I think you're only going to play him probably twice the rest of the season, which is around 15, I think 18 he plays. You'd need him to score one of them games to even get to 50. So it's like, sure, his role could increase, but we can't bank on something maybe happening that doesn't look likely at the moment. So on the surface, not for me.
Latrell Mitchell, boys, number 11th most traded in, 593k, 113 points on the weekend. He was exceptional. Averaging 57 this season, has a break-even of 42. People are moving to him. We know the enticement of Trell. The downside, though, firstly playing the Raiders down in the capital this week. You then miss round 15. Every chance to rest in round 16. That's on the 3-day turnaround against Melbourne from the Perth Origin. Play round 17 against the Dolphins. He'll miss round 18 to Origin, round 19 to the bye, back round 20 against Penrith. You might get 1 or 2 good weeks out of him. Desi, this is a chat for you because you mentioned that, you're just getting your best team. Well, there's every chance that Latrell's in it. Any temptation or not?
I don't think he's in it, no. He looked absolutely terrible for the first 60 minutes of that game against the Warriors, and then he turned it on in the last 20, 25 minutes. So, yeah, we know that he can score about 80 points in 20 minutes, but he's just not going to do it against those teams coming up. I just don't think he can do it, and I think Drinkwater plays a lot more games over the next 5 weeks than he does. Tedesco, he's definitely locked into top 3 fullbacks. Same with Pappenhausen. There's just no room for Trell. There's no room for Trell. There's no room for Ponga, unfortunately. And there's no room for Gutho anymore either. He scored a try and he did nothing in the second half. You just can't have players who go missing for a whole half. It's just not possible this year with all the fullbacks pretty much firing right now.
Spite?
Yeah, I'll go against you on this one, Desi. Not completely, but just worth noting, whilst Trell hasn't necessarily been at his absolute point-scoring Supercoach best for South this season, they haven't had many players left, and they get back Cody Walker, Jack White, and Ty Munro. So straight away, they're a lot stronger side, and maybe they find some momentum. So I don't hate the Trell buy. I just don't like it right now. I think the timing's unfortunately not right. He's so cheap. It's just so enticing, but we saw... Turbo's a different story because it's an injury risk there, but people got sucked in due to the price. Whereas if you look at the timing in isolation right now, it's not the time, but I think the time could come post-Origin or around that, he misses round 19 or something, but round 20, you want to run home with him. Sure, don't mind that, but I just don't think it's right now.
Oh, I'm against as well, Desi, on that one. It's Latrell Mitchell, and I reckon you'll eat your words by post-Origin with this one as well. Right now, you look at, Teddy Shaw and Pappenhausen, and Drinky's sort of probably the one that's on the precipice there a little bit as a season keeper or not, because he's a little bit more volatile than the others. But we get to the end of Origin period. Kalen Ponga could click into gear. If Tommy Turbo stays on the field and gets fit, he'll become a must at some point. Latrell Mitchell, he'll heat up as well if he stays fit through Origin. So I think there's going to be swings in the fullback position post-Origin period. I really do. And
normally I'm high on Trell.
I know you're a Trell boy.
I own him every season. He just, I don't know. He annoyed me in Origin. So he's not getting a trade in this year. It's as simple as that.
In Origin?
Why do you think?
Of course, he cost you your hair.
Yeah, he did. So he's not getting traded in.
It's the greatest Origin pass of all time, but nah. Didn't score it, so it doesn't count.
Alrighty, boys, on to a few of the more sold players this week. We've kind of touched on the likes of Rob Toyer and Corey Horsburgh, who I think we've already said that you could hold for one more week or you could sell. Toyer's break-even's 86. Corey Horsburgh, he's 74 and looks like he's a huge chance for Origin for the Maroons as well after the Origin 1 snub. Zach Hosking is an interesting one. Number 5 most traded out, 545k, a 57-point average. Spies, break-even's 83. What are you thinking with Hosking, who will not play round 15, but he covers round 18?
And round 16, which is going to be huge. So, and round 19, I think. He nearly scored 3 or 4 times on the weekend. Not saying fingertips, but he's just so close so often. I think people got sucked in a little bit by the live scoring as well. I certainly did. He did so much work. I'm like, how's he on 42? Yeah. Then he went up to 53 or 55. Did get pulled again at 69th minute.
So his 2 scores, last 2 each, which have got people worrying a little bit, 54 and 43. They were in 69 and 76 minutes, respectively. The Raiders are going to lose Hudson Young to Origin, every chance Corey Horsburgh, so Hosking probably plays 80 in these weeks. If not 80, he'll keep his 65 to 70. Plays those key rounds, as you said, 0 attack in those. He had good base in both of those games. The 43 against the Warriors, that was in those terrible wet conditions over there.
Line through that game, yeah.
Yeah, so
Attack's coming. I think you just hold on and use him. You don't have to play him this weekend if you don't want to, but
That's the other thing. If you're concerned about scoring in minutes with everyone on deck, don't play
it's
him.
all good. But he'll come in very handy pretty shortly.
They do have the round 19 bye, the Raiders.
Well, he's probably a sell around 9.
I agree.
Perfect.
Yeah. You move him on to whoever you want after
Yep.
that. Like it could be an Angus Crichton or something like that.
That's it. Done.
Seeing there, Munster will be in your trade chat, won't he, Spy?
Yeah, we'll save it till then.
Tom Jenkins, another one where you could hold him for another week if you want. Name to start on the wing again for the Panthers, but terrible bye coverage, a break even of 76. If you want to move him on, no dramas. Isaiah Iongi in a similar boat, a 44 break even. I think you can move him to a gun fullback at any given point as well. Guys, trade and skipper plans for the week. Desi, I'll start with you, mate. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking I'm not going to trade. I think I'm pretty high on doing Toya to Lawson next week, and then doing Gutho to Teddy. I think Teddy's about as low as he's gonna get this season. To be honest, 840k or so. That's about the lowest he's been since the start of the season. He just knocks out 100 every third week, which just stays in his 3-round rolling average.
Yeah.
So you just don't get a price drop on him. So. And Gutho scored about 120 2 rounds ago, so that's going to drop out after this week. So it's the perfect trade. It's only going to cost about 140k. Then I'll have 260k to play with left over for a third trade, which is probably going to be someone like Dylan Brown to Jaden Campbell. So I just don't see Dylan Brown in my top 18 this year. He's just been a bit quiet. He looked really good in the first sort of 10 minutes against Penrith, and then he just dropped off and did nothing for the rest of the game. The base seems like it's a little bit down as well this season. The try assist, he's just not breaking the line. Teams kind of know what Dylan Brown is going to do when he has the ball now. He has that left foot step, tries to take on his man every single time, and they're just all over him. They're swarming him, not giving him much time and space. So, yeah, I think it's Munster and Jaden Campbell that I'm going to be ending with.
It's an interesting point around Gutherson, who I was like, really good bye coverage to come, plays the next two major bonus team, maybe just hold him. They play in those 2 weeks the Sharks and the Roosters. The Sharks and the Raiders. The Sharks will be missing no one to Origin. The Raiders will be missing Hudson Young and maybe Corey Horsburgh in round 18.
You're only giving him up for that round 17 against Parramatta where he scored 130 against them in round 5, which he probably will do again. But I'm willing to give it up to get Tedesco in.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Spite?
Interesting one, boys. So I've already spoken about it a little bit, but I'm going to move Corey Horsburgh on for Eli Katoa. Any knocks there?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense.
He doesn't play round 15. Do you wait 2 weeks?
Either does Corey, even if he makes Origin, even if he doesn't. So I might as well do it now. He's going to torch the Cowboys. It is 13 and raining in Melbourne on Friday night, which is annoying, but not heavy rain. So who knows how that pans out? But I wish it was. That's good for Ellie, but for your Pappenhausen and co, maybe not so much. But yeah, I'm going to do that now. That'll then set up Toya directly to Kiraz next week, if that's the way I want to go. That'll all just depend on round 16 numbers, but you know how much I love Kiraz. It'll be hard to keep me away from him. What I can also do next weekend is then Munster to Jaden Campbell. I don't want to do it this round because, again, let's just...
Yeah.
No,
like why
yeah,
would you?
yeah.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Hectic.
Jeez.
Munster's got the Cowboys at home. There's no need to do it. Let's just double check Campbell's not hurt or in Origin or whatever. Anything could happen. Probably having a baby or something. Probably scoring 4 tries there. No. And that also opens up a Valentine to Lehigh Hopper-Waddy move next weekend if I want to. I'd like to hold Val, but he does miss 3 out of 4 matches. But they're my targets in the next 2 weeks. I don't need to do any... Actually, I do need to do one this weekend if I want all 4. So whether I'll push on all 4 of those, I'm not sure, but it just gives me the options there if I want to do it. But yeah, I've been waiting to welcome Eli Katoa into my side for a long, long time.
You have been kissed on the you-know-what. He's threatened to go so big. I think it's a miracle he's only averaging 71.
Katoa is my reverse Garrick, where we are tight.
Yeah.
So you can almost bank on a ton for Ellie this weekend. I'll give you that.
It's
for a
been
fact.
coming for so long. Anywho.
Almost certain.
Matty, the water boy. What are you looking at, mate?
Yeah, no huge, alarm bells this week, obviously. So I've wanted to get Herbie in my team for a while, so I can turn Jenkins into him, and that's probably the only thing I'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
simple as that.
Skippers?
Terrell May for sure, and we'll just vice Pappenhausen.
Yep. I have a question for you boys for my one. My plan last week came to fruition in a different way than I had hoped because said just missed out financially on Keon last week. Went, all right, cool. Rob Toya plays his game, gets to be cash rise, and I can this week go Toya to Keon in one hit. Keon got 110, so not ideal. I can still do that by the skin of my teeth, by $8,000. In one trade, I don't really want to use two this week. I don't need to. The question, with Mitch Barnett's injury, Keon is bloody close to this Blues team. If that's the case, Keon would then miss, obviously, round 15, key bye coverage. He'd miss round 18, and he would miss round, I think it's 19, and round 19. So we'd get him this week for the Raiders, who, again, one of the best packs in the NRL. He misses 15. Does he back up round 16 against Melbourne on the short
Probably off
turnaround?
the bench if he plays Origin, so I'd count him in for those games, but minutes won't
But
be 80.
still, like, not an 80 through
Yeah.
the middle sort of thing. Exactly. So, like, it might be 50 or 60 off the bench. Not the same thing. Dolphins round 17, misses round 18, misses round 19. Do I pull the trigger? And I'll be digging every man and dog that I know who has any word on Blues selection, trying to find out how close he is. But we know he was close for the opening game, for that final bench spot. And now, they've lost Mitch Barnett. So I'll start with you, Spy, to help me out. Pull the trigger or wait?
Yeah, I think given Stefano was next man up for the Blues, he comes in just based purely on last game and what Laurie had to say.
Did Laurie quote say he was next man up? Or
I heard him say it at one
for
point.
Payne Haas,
Yep.
right?
But I mean, whoever it's for, Stefano off the bench, his impact. So I think someone will start anyway. Got confused there. In short, I'd be getting Keon right now. Use his points, enjoy his ride this weekend. I just think it's a risky miss. He could make another 70, 80K this
He's got a
weekend.
break even of 11, so yeah, if he goes big again.
The fact you could just get him with 8K is just get it done. Get him in. And worst case, you keep him as a keeper regardless. But yeah, I can understand why you'd try and source that little anti-pod move with
such
maybe
good antipod if he
Origin.
gets picked for the Blues.
But even then, you could still score 70 to 120
Yeah.
this weekend, and then he could back up big minutes, and you go, well, it didn't really help me much anyway. So I'd be getting him. That's what I'd be doing.
Desi, talk to me.
I'd rip the antipod. You're falling down the rankings to me. You're coming
Thanks, Des.
3,000th odd.
How do you stabilise, though? Get the informed player. Stabilise and then start soaring again.
You
It's
could.
30
Or you could go
For the
rogue.
record, I'm 3,600. It's not exactly panic stations, but
It's not. But if you want to come top 100,
Yeah.
you're going the wrong way.
thanks, mate. I have eyes.
Can we get that up in graph form just to check?
Can you get a bloody photo?
Oh, yep. Yeah, it
In
doesn't
all
look
honesty,
good.
I'd hold off. I think he'll be picked.
Can we get a PowerPoint just to get my rank the last 3 weeks, just so I can really confirm that? You reckon Keon gets picked for?
I think so, yeah. I think he's made a statement over the last 2 weeks. And the statement is, pick me.
I agree, and I don't think Stefano's been very good.
No.
I'm
I
not
thought he
worried
made
about
a
it.
statement before. Maybe it was a bit later in time, but
He only just moved to the middle before that Origin selection. He's now had a few weeks. Like, he was outstanding on the weekend.
he's brilliant. Yeah.
So yeah, look, as it stands, that's
Bit
what I'm
tricky.
doing. I'm going Toya to Keon. We'll get the phone book out and see who I know. Not many people, so not enough. Skippers, Spy.
Yeah, VC Pappy, 100%. Even if it's raining, I just think he's on against the Cowboys. I'd never not VC him. And into Terrell May, it's a proven formula at the moment, so I'm going to roll with that. There are a few attacking matchups this weekend, so I'm 85% Terrell, but I might just ponder over the weekend if I'm feeling ambitious. If there's a few other options there, but I'll save that for the WhatsApp.
Desi.
I'm leaning the same way, but Cleary, I don't know. There's just something about him. He sparked up a little bit in the second half last week. A few 40-20s, knocking out close to 100 with no try assist, I believe.
That's
it's
true.
It's a scary matchup. He could definitely towel up the Tigers even if they put 30, 40 points. You'd think they'd put 30 points on the Tigers. Tigers have leaked 30 to 40 the last month. So
By a few 40-20s, Jermaine, the one he kicked.
I don't know. It just reeks of a ton. It reeks of a
I know,
Cleary
I
ton
know.
this week.
I know.
I think he's due.
I think I'm with you, mate. I'm thinking VC Pappy and to see Nathan Cleary, and people sold as well, which is exciting leading into that Origin period. So people will, I think he'll be one of the more sold players next week out of missing a lot of action. But yeah, I'm with you for all those reasons. I think especially if the
Don't
weather's
mind
looking okay in Sydney, it's a Tigers home game. It's out at Combank where Penrith are playing their home game. So I'm thinking Nathan Cleary captaincy.
Don't mind that.
All right, boys, a few questions before we wrap it up for the show. One from Mike Roki. Can the panel update us on where they are at with trades after this week? He says he has 21 left and 2 boosts, ranked 981st. So he's going well. Mike, long time supporter of the show. Spite?
17 left after my trades this weekend. No boosts, clearly. But,
17. Whew.
that's what I did last year. Then I don't do anything for about 3 weeks and I'm equal again.
Jeez. Desi?
I've got 19. 19, no boost.
After this week.
Yeah, well, no trades this week. Still on 19.
Right. I've got 20 left after this week with 1 boost. So I just feel a bit better about myself. Just need to turn in some green arrows. Next question from David Risby. Another one around these Origin players and going a little bit harder, Desi. Evening Legends, To'o for Toya, worth a look if you have 15, 16 and 18 covered. So he set himself up well. An early play on Brian To'o.
I don't mind it, yeah. He could go in for a triple against the Tigers, like we were saying. His base is, well, he was slightly down before last week where he knocked out a fair, what did he get last
49
week?
in base.
49 in base, yeah. But before then, he was just knocking out sort of 20s and 30s in base. He wasn't looking that impressive before last week. I think there's better options right now. And I think you want him post bye period. You don't want him through the bye period. Lomax is kind of the only guy that I really want to ace up who is an Origin player.
Spite?
Yeah, he misses rounds 15, 16 and 18 because he's going to rest that New Zealand match, so it just puts a line through him. But yeah, I like the attacking thought process. I think you just need more games out of whoever you're going to do it on.
And even the round 17 game, that's against the Doggies and their good defence.
Oh, yeah, tough.
From now round 19 onwards, they have a really, we're just looking at it, pretty soft run for at least the month after Origin. So I think it'll be a great pickup, especially Penrith. They won't be resting players. They'll be given everything every week to try and make the 8. So.
Unless they're out of contention, but we can check that round 19,
Exactly right. So I think I'm off for that one. One from Daniel O'Connell. Desi, thoughts on Dane Gagai? Obviously the ceiling isn't there like others, but a 70-plus 5-round average in that team is pretty elite areas. Get you through the next 4 weeks, then reassess come round 18.
I like it. I was speaking to Spy about it pre-show today. He just looks good. He looks like normal Dane Gagai. I can't believe he hasn't scored a try in God knows how long. I really thought he'd score one last week. In fact, I put him in a multi with Jaden Sewer. Nearly landed. But yeah, the try drought will end. He has the kicking if Ponga's not there, I believe.
Yeah, he's been kicking.
So yeah,
He's
he's been kicking. He's been scoring 70s quite comfortably. The tackle busting is there. Just the tries, they're just not letting him. I don't know. They're not letting him break the line as much. He kind of has to flick it out to the man outside of him. But yeah, I think it's a fair enough play.
So he's averaging 60 this season, a 3-round average of 73.3. Pardon me. He scored 1 try all year. It's incredible. His lack of tries is remarkable.
Yeah.
And he's only set up 3, which is also not a lot. I think he's played near enough every game for the Knights. Against the Dragons on the weekend, 20 tackles, 7 tackle busts, 18 runs and 2 line break assists. Spy, I just, like most of us, as a Dylan Lucas and Fletcher Sharp owner, I do not want another piece of the Knights, but what are your thoughts?
Oh, his base is always going to be huge, so I think he's pretty safe if you want him. Is the upside there with the Knights? I just don't know at the moment. They're just producing some absolute rot as a team rather than individually. Like Gagai's playing really well. I questioned him a couple of weeks ago. Wasn't entirely sure if maybe Father Time had just caught him a little bit, but apparently it hasn't. He's still kicking around pretty well, so...
It's like, do you go him or Aitken? That's the question.
Probably... Well, my answer is probably neither. I reckon there's probably more...
I'll be trying to find a Hervey
I think
or a
there's
Hero or
more...
someone.
Centres are stacked. I think there's keeper options there. But he's not going to let you down if you bring him in.
No.
Yeah.
No way. One from Awesome Maxi. As a Sandon Smith and Riley Smith owner, is upgrading Riley to Damien Cook to play, or do we hold Riley until round 19 and upgrade then? So, I mean, I'm in this boat immediately, and Sandon and Riley, they're doing great jobs, and nothing's really given me any indication to trade either of them in what has been a pretty dud position. Sandon has great bye coverage, so we definitely don't sell him. And Spy, you mentioned his goal kicking at the moment as well. Riley Smith, he's getting towards his peak, but geez, belting out some good base stats at the moment. No bye coverage, so you could move Riley. I'm just not convinced on any of the replacements. How are you sitting at hooker Desi, and what are your thoughts on a Damien Cook play?
I've got Sandon and Kalani going. I'm totally content to just hold Sandon. I think he's borderline like best in position right now. Other than
not
Cook.
far off it, yeah.
Other than Cook, but I don't think Cook will keep it up. He just doesn't seem to want to take the line on himself, close to the line. I feel like when Cook was at his best, maybe like 5 years ago, he'd take the ball and go for a little run in the attacking 10 and just dive over, kind of what Harry Grant does. He's just not doing it anymore. So I'm not that keen on him.
Spy?
I've got Sandon and Starling. Sandon definitely hold until further notice. We'll see what happens with Sammy Walker. And Tommy Starling's interesting. Slightly diving away from this question, I think you just hold Riley Smith in that scenario. But Tommy Starling with Owen Paddy, a.k.a. Mini Harry Grant on the weekend, causing me all sorts of headaches as much as it was good to watch. Because Tommy Starling, Owen Paddy's demanding minutes, isn't he? But Starling might shift to lock.
That's your hope.
So I'm sort of just in it to answer my hooking situation. I've got to see how it plays out this weekend. But in that scenario for Awesome Maxi, I think probably just hold off for now. I don't think you need to rush out either of them.
Will Corbett, Spy versus Desi in a boxing match. Who's winning? Desi, I'll throw to you first, mate. You towing the big fella up or not?
I don't think so. I think Spy's got me. He's got the height and the reach. I've got the weight. That's about it.
I'm too competitive. You won't beat me. Are you competitive, Desi, like on the sporting field?
I am, yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
So you wouldn't like...
You're competitive, but you're soft as
I'm not
butter.
going to roll over for you.
Dead set dreaming.
How many
Put me in the
punches have
middle.
you thrown in your life?
I knocked Sam's tooth out. Did you know that?
That was by accident in the kitchen.
Yeah, imagine if I tried. Boom. Sent him to the dentist. Thanks for coming, little sparring.
Here's what I reckon.
Mini Mike Tyson, they call me, I think. What do you reckon?
I reckon if it was a 3-round fight, I reckon Desi would either knock you in round one, but by the end of round one, he'd run out of steam. You're pretty fit, Spy, for an old boy. I'll give you that. Your fitness would kick in. You wouldn't win by KO because you're not strong enough.
Oh, I didn't need points.
You'd jab away. You do
not here to knock him out.
You do a lot of research and training leading into it, but I reckon Desi knocks you round one. That's my tip.
I'd take a month off work to prepare, going to camp. My other story on boxing actually is, I don't know, you weren't there. It was under 18's Cooma Stallions, and we had a little fight night out in the backyard, and we had to draw out of a hat your opponent. And I drew big Mitchie Simpson, former Raiders under 18 front rower. I'm like, this is not good. And
very good footballer, very big boy.
I tried to throw a few punches because I'm like, well, I'm not going to win this on points. And I was like, I remember doing it, and then next thing it's like I'd run into a brick wall, but I wasn't moving. And he just got me square in the nose. I'm like, that's my boxing career done.
Oh, no. All right, guys, that'll do us for the SC Playbook podcast for this week. Do us a favour, support us. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the video if you're watching it. What do? Vote for us, bloody rate us on Spotify, Apple, all those good things to help us out. Spy, thank you, mate.
Cheers, boys, as always. How good?
Thanks, Desi.
Cheers, boys.
Righto, guys, thanks for tuning in.